Hello, I'm Megan Bjorklund, and I'll be speaking about tourism and disaster with you today. There are many kinds of disaster that can affect any given area. Some of the most beautiful places in the world are prone to the worst natural disasters. Hawaii has active volcanoes. The beautiful beaches of Florida, both on the Atlantic and Gulf side, experience horrific hurricanes. The exotic locations of Thailand and Indonesia face tsunamis such as that of 2004. Then there are technological or man-made disasters that also threaten areas, such as the oil spill in Gulf of Mexico or the nuclear plant explosion in Japan in 2011. Immediately after disaster strikes the area, it takes another hit, and that is a drop in tourism. This was recently seen in Japan after the nuclear explosion. Delta was quick to cancel about 20% of their flights that go into Japan. No one wanted to risk possible exposure. Other times, it's not that people don't want to visit anymore, it's that they no longer can do so. The Nicobar Islands were once viewed as some of the most beautiful isolated islands in the world to visit. After the tsunami of 2004, the natural environment changed so much so that it can no longer be held in the same regard. The loss of revenue is devastating for most tourism shops who are built along the coast and low-lying areas because one hurricane or tsunami can completely destroy them. Most of these shops do not have an emergency plan for recovery, and they are never able to reopen their stores. In developing countries where they rely so heavily on tourism, after a disaster, it's not only the tourist shops who struggle, but all the people who live in the area. In the United States, after the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, local fishermen were unable to make a living because the water was so heavily polluted. For economic recovery, according to Skift.com, it took until 2012 for New Orleans to have pre-Katrina levels of tourism, with 9.01 million visitors who've spent roughly $6 billion. This ranks among the highest in the city's history. Other disasters didn't take as long to recover. 2 years after the oil spill in the Gulf, tourism was back up in the Gulf states. This was due mostly to the massive marketing campaign held by BP, in which they showed how the area has recovered. An article on Reuters said that tourists were coming back with a vengeance to damaged areas, and that BP spent about $150 million in marketing to encourage them to do so. There have been several trends in tourism. One of them is called disaster tourism. People are wanting to see areas that have been hit by disaster. Gray Line buses now offer tours into areas that have never recovered from Katrina. Disastertourism.co.uk offers various trips to chase tornadoes in the United States, travel to areas such as Ecuador to see destruction of a volcano, to reenact a plane crash, or even visit Chernobyl to see how completely desolate the area has become. Another form of tourism is called ecotourism, which helps not only the economy but the environment recover. There are also nonprofit organizations such as the Planterra Foundation, who works with local developing areas to help them develop emergency preparedness and response plans so they can survive and recover after a disaster strikes. The best thing for any of the areas that are threatened by disasters is to have a plan. Regardless of the threat of disasters, tourists take the risk because it's a beautiful world out there. I, for one, love to take any opportunity I can to see the world and to support local economies.